Yeah, boy.
Why do you think men care about a woman's body count?
Do you? People actually care about that shit?
Men in general.
If a man is fucking asking my body count, he can get fucked. Who gives a fuck? Oh my god, that's so stupid. People actually ask that shit?
Yes.
Okay, well then you're talking to the wrong man. If a man is ever asking you about your body count, you're talking to the wrong man, and he can get fucked. Like, that's so fucking stupid. Get fucked.
So, can I ask you this then?
Yeah, sure.
So, what do you think about the analogy? If one key can open many locks, it's known as a master key, as opposed to if you have a lock that can be opened by any key, it's a shitty lock.
I think that if a woman is an analogy to you, then you're not fucking ready to be talking to a woman, and you should probably get fucked. So, if a woman is the key to you, talk to your mom, talk to your sister, talk to your cousin. I don't know, get a real fucking life.
This is HBR News number 440. Alec Baldwin re-indicted, military at record low recruitment. Gamergate was right, where we discuss the news of the week and give it the Badger treatment. Hello everyone and welcome to Honey Badger Radio. Hope you guys are doing well this week and that you're laughing at all this absurdity so that you're not consumed by it. My name is Brian and I'm joined by my lovely co-hosts Hannah Wallen and Dr. Redimer Cam. Sorry, I'm burping. I'm drinking water. That's fizzy. And we have a great show lineup for you guys this week, so please be sure to continue the conversations both in the chat as well as the comments section. On this week's HBR News, we're going to be talking about the recent news regarding Alec Baldwin, where there was a shooting on the set of his film. Sports Illustrated learns what happens when you don't serve your base. They lose a lot of money. The military is at record low recruitment in over 80 years and more, so stick around, it's going to be a good time. And be sure to join us afterwards for the patron-only show. So, one of my favorite Guardian contributors, Arwa Madawi, who never fails to deliver good cringe for us, has this to say. AI girlfriends are here, but there's a dark side to virtual companions. So we're going to find out how...
Your name to Are You Kidding Me?
Yeah, right.
I'm so sick of seeing her fucking po face going. What am I doing?
I think that she's AI, to be honest. I think that an AI wrote this article. It's a jealous AI, though. It was programmed to be envious. But yeah. So she's basically saying creators of these chatbots often tout them as a way to combat loneliness, but they can create unhealthy attachments and affect gender roles. Dun dun dun. I don't have that handy right now. I ought to just push the button. So we'll take a look at what this week in her. So she has like a column or a spot on The Guardian, and it's called The Week in Patriarchy. So whenever I can't find anything cringe, I just go to The Guardian and look at what Arwa Madawi has to say about the patriarchy this week. Because the patriarchy allows her to write these articles. So
It's the worst patriarchy ever, guys. Seriously, come on.
yeah. But anyway, so if you want to join us for this lovely person and her article about artificial intelligence girlfriends, please go to feedthebadger.com and set up a monthly subscription. $5 a month will get you into the Discord, where you'll be able to enjoy all of the additional content. And if you give it higher levels, you can even join us in the conversation live, because you will probably have you just want to like gag with the rest of us and let everyone else hear it as we read through this article. So, and if you don't want to wake up one morning and find that we've been yeeted from the internet, or at least the internet as the normies know it, then go to badgerfeed.com. That's badgerfeed.com or honeybadgerradio.com. And we are also doing our monthly fundraiser, which is feedthebadger.com/support. We are hoping to get to our goals. And if you could help us with that, that would be amazing. So without further ado, we're going to get into our stories. So first up, we have a follow-up on Alec Baldwin. So it's been over 9 months since New Mexico prosecutors dropped the charges against Alec Baldwin over the death of cinematographer Helena Hutchins, who was shot and killed by Baldwin after his prop gun fired a very real bullet at her. The initial dropping of charges came as the prosecutors announced that there was not enough time before the trial was set to finish building their case, and that the charges could be refiled. And that's exactly what happened as Baldwin finds himself once again charged with involuntary manslaughter after New Mexico has indicted him once more. Gloria Allred, lawyer for the Hutchins' family, said in a statement, quote, "We are looking forward to the criminal trial, which will determine if he should be convicted to the untimely death of Helena," end quote. Baldwin stands by his innocence, saying, quote, "I feel that someone is responsible for what happened, and I can't say who that is, but I know it's not me," end quote. If convicted, Baldwin may face 18 months in prison.
You can't say who that is, Alec. Did you forget their names? It's a pretty small handful of people in the chain of command here. It's the guy who shot the gun. That would be you. It's the goofball diversity hire who was in charge of the guns. That would be Hannah Gutierrez Reed. And it's the producer who was in charge of the whole production. That would also be you. You are both sides of the bread in this accountability sandwich, Alec. And yes, Hannah Gutierrez Reed is a bit of a mouthful of a name to remember for such a sandwich. But something tells me you must have become accustomed to reading that name and saying it out loud, perchance many a time in the years before and since this case has been going on. And if you're unable or unwilling to throw Zimzer under the bus, then that doesn't leave you many options, does it? Unless you're blaming some minimum wage dog's body whose job it was to pass the gun from the armorer to you. There's no one else involved in the various steps leading up to this death. Except, of course, the victim. Was it her fault, Alec? Did she bring it upon herself? That's kind of what we're concerned about. Well, even in the event that it was all an honest mistake, we're still concerned about the tragic death brought about by a series of honest mistakes. At this point, we're becoming suspicious, increasingly suspicious that it wasn't a mistake. If it was, you would be compelled to admit that the mistake was yours and or that of the armorer in question. What would your testimony be, Alec, in the event that you did this on purpose? What would it be in the event that you colluded with the armorer in question? What if you know you're both guilty of first-degree murder and you're simply playing past the hot potato with the ghost who never lies? I don't know who's responsible, but I know it's not me. Seems to be exactly what you would say in that circumstance. A guilty conscience is capable of flapping in all manner of directions, but a lot depends on the nature of the crime for which they know they are guilty. If you knew you were guilty of involuntary manslaughter, you might be pleading for some kind of lenience along those lines. And you'd probably get away with a slap on the wrist if you did. You're a Hollywood big shot, after all. You actually are above the law. Unless and until you defy the oikophobic agenda of your industry. And maybe you got Me Too'd or something. If you knew all along that you were committing a premeditated murder, you'd be doing everything in your power to get away with it scot-free, because that was always the idea. Just my 2 cents, though. I'm not a real lawyer. None of this is legal advice. Ignore me entirely.
I will say, this tragedy does kind of give you an insight into why the left are such gun grabbers. They think that you're not responsible enough to handle a gun because they're not responsible enough to handle a gun safely. And either they get their hands on one and they murder somebody, or they're so stupid that they treat it like a toy, and then they forget that they treated it like a toy and they accidentally kill somebody. Both of those scenarios are terrible, and the person in charge, the top dog, is always responsible, right? It doesn't matter whether you're the manager at a convenience store or the captain of a ship or the head honcho on a movie set or television show set or the CEO of a company, the head foreman of a factory. If you are in charge of everybody and something this bad happens, you're responsible. It doesn't matter if it's your fault. It doesn't matter if somebody else did something wrong. They were working under you. You're responsible. And most men will say that. Most men understand that. It's why men outnumber women significantly in these positions. But when you tell men they should be more feminized, and you tell men that it's wrong for them to have that level of accountability and that level of self-importance, like, because that is, you have to be self-important to take that level of responsibility, then you end up with men who screw up like this, who let something bad happen or make something bad happen, and then try to excuse it by saying, oh, yes, I was in charge, but I'm not at fault for this. It's not my responsibility to prevent things like this happening in the area where I was totally in charge. And so, no, they're not responsible enough to handle firearms, and they want to take yours because social justice lawyers always project. And I hope everything comes out in court. I hope that the hearing is fair, and I hope the outcome is fair, and I hope that the family of the victim gets some relief from that. I can't imagine how it must feel to be them, knowing that happened to someone they loved, and this is how it's playing out in media afterward. Like, if somebody shot one of my family members to death and then played it off like, oh, Mr. Butterfingers, I would be beside myself. And I feel really bad for them.
Yeah, we don't normally.
That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, that we don't normally do that. Well, this is a follow-up, so there's not much to say. There's no need to make the DIE joke, because this did have to do with the fact that there were less experienced people, let's say, women, that were, there was a female armorer, and I think there was another woman on the staff. But it is true that since Baldwin was the guy that was the producer, it comes down to him. Like, the buck stops with him. So, but I hope that people, there's something to take away from this. And from what I heard, this happened. They weren't even really making the movie. They were doing like an establishing kind of teaser thing where, he's like seated and he like points the gun at the camera and pulls the trigger. And there's even still some of the test footage from that shot out there on the internet. So we'll see what happens. I don't know what else to say about that. Just that, it is a tragedy, but we should see like how things go. And I'd like to know why, are there going to be any charges or penalties applied to the armorer or the people who are responsible to make sure, for the firearm safety? Just let me know what you guys think in the comments. I got a super ciao from Meredith G, and she gives us $5 and says, HBR News number 440, sorry. What bothered me about the first Baldwin indictment was that he was being charged with a gun charge enhancer that wasn't on the books when shooting occurred. That is prosecutorial abuse. And what bothers me now is that the current charge is politically motivated because Gloria Allred is looking to sue Baldwin. If his recklessness wasn't enough to charge him right after the crime, why all this effing around? That's a good question, Meredith. Thank you for that. Oh, and I forgot to mention, that there was a hot take from, everybody's favorite diseased version of Eric Clapton, Jeff Tiedrick. Like, every time I see his profile picture, it hurts my soul because I like Eric Clapton's music. But
wait,
this
that's
is
not Eric
him.
Clapton.
It's not Eric Clapton, no. No.
Dollar store
No.
Eric Clapton, right?
It's cancerous Eric Clapton. It's AIDS Eric Clapton. I don't know. But he made a post about pretty recent, January 19th, and he said, what Alec Baldwin did is a tragedy. What Kyle Rittenhouse did is murder. If you don't recognize the difference, I can't help you. What this has to do with Kyle Rittenhouse?
Wait, so
no idea. This guy's obviously like...
Is murder.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a tragedy because he shot a paedophile and a communist paedophile at that. So how the fuck is that tragedy? Joke.
No, you got a point there. I didn't consider that. But anyway, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments, and I'm going to move on to the next story. So this is... we're talking about Sports Illustrated. So let me share this one with you guys. And I mean, not surprised, but the hits don't stop coming for the former juggernaut that is Sports Illustrated magazine. As if being caught using AI to very poorly write articles for them wasn't bad enough. Can you imagine? If you've ever read ChatGPT when it answers questions, it's always the same format. That's probably what their articles look like. The company has announced massive layoffs. The magazine's publisher, the Arena Group, announced that the layoffs were part of, quote, cost-cutting measures to initiate a transformative shift towards a streamlined business model, end quote, which is a fancy way of saying the company is broke. The Arena Group is set to lay off at least 100 employees from the magazine and is still in considerable debt. Authentic Brands Group, the parent company of Sports Illustrated, has removed the Arena's group publishing license for Sports Illustrated due to failure to pay the fee for the license. Authentic Brands Group is hoping the magazine can bounce back, stating, quote, Authentic is here to ensure that the brand of Sports Illustrated, which includes its editorial arm, continues to thrive as it has for the past nearly 70 years. We are confident that going toward the brand will continue to evolve and grow in a way that serves sports news readers, sports fans, and consumers. Despite these massive hurdles, the Arena Group says it wants to keep talks open with Authentic Brands Group and that they plan on continuing to produce Sports Illustrated during these talks, though how they plan to do that without a publishing license and virtually no staff is unclear. Well, they're going to use AI still.
Before I get this wrong, Sports Illustrated also put a Truny on their front cover quite recently, didn't they? Unless it's someone else.
I think so.
And as good as it might feel to go sort of victoriously saber rattling to the chant of "Get woke, go broke," every time yet another company goes under due to its short-sighted compliance with ESG incentives or whatever they're calling it now, it's not as though the gap in the market is being replaced by a different company or companies that aren't making such capitulations. What looks like a small, perhaps Pyrrhic victory is even worse. It's actually just another accumulated defeat in the free market. The companies that will continue to go on are the ones that are too big to fail, and they become even more too big to fail every time a smaller company is no longer able to compete in a free market. And we get closer and closer to like what's happening in South Korea, where apparently almost everything is monopolized by like 5 untouchable gigantic mega corporations. The anarcho-capitalist in me is tempted to say, okay, that's fine, as long as it happened fairly and organically and without government collusion or interference. Perhaps I should leave it to the South Koreans to comment on the degree to which that might be the case. I'm sure it's preferable.
It never happens that way, though.
Yeah, I'm sure it's preferable to how it works on the north side of the border, where there's only one entity in charge of everything, and it's the government. But Sports Illustrated is just the latest in many examples of companies that have foolishly fallen for the scam of, get rid of meritocracy and replace it with women, racial minorities, and troons. And someone somewhere will make it worth your while. Whoops-a-daisy, they absolutely did not make it worth your while. It only ruined you. And yeah, that doesn't seem like its market forces working like they're supposed to. It seems like it's a result of out-of-touch marketing executives bounding into something they think the general public wants. The general public doesn't want troons. They want efficient and affordable products, but you wouldn't know that if you principally listen to so-called progressives predicting what a so-called progressive future is going to entail. Unfortunately, it could become a self-fulfilling prophecy if medium-sized companies keep getting fooled and disappearing, and the market is filled not by smaller independent companies but by larger companies. Then in a few years from now, we might see a world where there's nothing left but, Disney, Alphabet, fucking Berkshire Hathaway, PetroChina, and whoever's producing all the food, which, given the international crackdown on farmers, is going to be the government, which by then will be a one world government. And together they will all continue to push this message of everyone should become a racial minoritarian troonie, and there'll be no one left to ask, how is this going to help us sell burgers? It will never again be about the burgers. You will eat the burgers we tell you to eat, and they will be made of grasshoppers and dung beetles. So yeah, I know it feels like a win at first blush every time a Sports Illustrated or a Bud Light gets punished for its foolishness. But you might want to look at the big picture. This should never have been happening in the first place. What looks like a comedy of errors very often turns out to be a tragedy of the Machiavellian successes of the world's worst political forces. And this isn't even me trying to black pill you, folks. I'm once again warning you of the dangers of false white pills, of craven images, of fatuous distractions from your following of the one true God, which is economic prosperity for all. Freedom, damn it, afuera.
Suddenly, everybody can speak Spanish. Okay, so
There we go. Well,
I guess the one
word.
Yeah, at least it's probably one of the better words.
You'll have seen Javier Milei at the WEF.
Oh yeah.
This time last week, I was saying how Milei is the real deal, and then he went and did that speech to the WF, and I'm like, oh, chef's kiss.
Yeah, it was beautiful. Allison thought, I think it was so beautiful. Allison was convinced it wasn't real. And I was like, are you sure? And she was like, no, it's a green screen. No, it's real. He really did that.
Yeah.
He really did that. He went there and told them. And the truth is, like, it just shows you, like, it's like that guy, and I was going to mention the UFC in just a moment because this is related to this. The guy in the UFC that, like, just, like, put the fucking journalist on Front Street right there at the press conference. It just goes to show that, like, most of the time, these people, these, like, activists, wokey politicians, fucking, social engineers, they're cowards. If you confront them, if you tell them, they're cowards. I mean, and people should be standing up and being vocal. They're made to be afraid. And Javier Milei, like, going to the World Economic Forum and telling them why they're wrong. I mean, not that they don't know what they're doing is wrong. They do. But he's doing it for the cameras. He's doing it for us. He's giving us,
he's not doing it for
like,
them because they're not going to.
No, because they're smart enough to know what they're doing. So it's not for them. He's not like, Klaus Schwab is gonna be like, oh my God, I was wrong. Like that's not, no. Like, but he does that. He puts it on Twitter. Elon Musk shares it. Everyone sees it. And now it's like, oh shit, yeah. These people they're, I'm not saying that they're not a threat, but you have to confront them. You have to face them. You have to tell them why they're wrong. So, and I mentioned the UFC guy. So like, Dana White, I think his name is. One of his fighters, this guy, I forget his name, might be Strickland or something. He is doing like big fights coming up. I don't really watch a UFC because but I'm sure that, I don't have anything against it. And some Canadian journalist confronted him and asked him about like some homophobic things he said, supposedly, or transphobic or something. And the guy was like, he just told him to go fuck off, like to go fuck himself. And he didn't apologize for it. And, the guy wasn't articulate, but he's a fucking UFC fighter. Like, what do you expect? Like, he's not going to have the political speech. He's not Michael Eric Dyson. He's not one of these people who has a thesaurus in his back pocket. He just says what he thinks. And the guy couldn't say, and then they tried to do the same shit to Dana White, his boss, and was like, "Oh, normally you keep your people on a long leash. Do you like worry that like that's going to like hurt you?" And he's like, "No, I don't care. Freedom of speech." And so to that, I would say, what's going on with Sports Illustrated is probably what happened to a lot of other magazines that were primarily made up of a male audience of men that were interested in sports. That's why it had a swimsuit issue. It wasn't even the most important part. I remember when Sports Illustrated was so popular, this was obviously before the internet, that there were ads to like have it mailed to your home. And lots of people did it. Like lots of people. My father was big into basketball and baseball. And so this is a pastime that is generally enjoyed by men. And I don't blame the internet. Some people say, well, who buys magazines anymore? But they could have a website. They could find all kinds of ways to compete and keep up. They just weren't doing it. But more than that, I think more than that is their audience, their customer base was not being observed. They weren't looking to see what do our customers want? I mean, the whole sports industry is like moving away from like, what men want, except for the UFC. They seem to be the only ones that are not bending the knee to all of these like fucking little feminine pet projects. And that's what when I see activism happening in sports, I see it as feminine, like, kneeling for the national anthem, the WNBA being pushed, people in the women's soccer, people wanting to get equal pay, tennis players that are super champions complaining because some dudes are making more money because the standards are higher, whatever. And the fact that these various, let's say, sports, institutions even like bother to give this lip service, much less celebrate it. And then you get the brands like Nike coming out and they like give, people like Colin Kaepernick like multi-million-dollar deals and he gets to do a show on Netflix. It's no wonder that more and more men are like, what? This isn't for, like, these people hate me for who I am. So I would say that Dana White should make his own magazine and make it like for men. And, and it could be UFC and whoever else wants to be a part of it. Because there's plenty of people in, baseball, basketball, football that just want to play the game. They just want to see excellence on the, on the field or the court or whatever. And I think that that's what could be the like, these corporations are going to do what they're going to do, because corporations, they get enough support from, donors in the government that they can just do whatever. Like, they can fuck up all day and they'll be bailed out with our tax dollars. But if we get a competitor, if somebody like a Dana White makes his own magazine with blackjack and hookers, then maybe that would be like the answer to that. And you can do it all on the internet. You don't even have to spend that much money. You just, you create your articles, you have your swimsuit issues, whatever, your fucking trad calendar with cakes and whatever it is. I don't feel a thing for what's happening. I'm sorry these people lost their jobs, but you should be looking at like, why are you not making money? Why is your company in debt? Why is it collapsing on itself? Why where are the customers? You know, it's literally, where have the good men gone? Where have all the good men gone? In media format. So I don't know. Those are my thoughts.
They're identifying as women. And
Yeah.
this is why I keep head desking every time someone goes, "This is women being erased." No, it's men literally erasing their male identity in order to get privileges. If anything, it is men not literally being erased, but male identity being erased.
Yes.
And the so-called progressives will cheer that on, even if it involves women getting their fucking skulls caved in by people who identify as women. They don't care about women. They only care about erasing male identity. And it doesn't matter who has to die or get permanently crippled in pursuit of erasing male identity. So you got to focus on that. It's not women being, for God's sake.
Yep. Absolutely.
There are two things that are under attack. One of them is masculinity, and the other one is your ability to observe and describe reality as you see it. And like when it's right in front of you, you can see it pretty well. And like there are people that'll try to tell you that reality doesn't exist, and describing things differently changes reality. But if you truly believe that, 100% that reality doesn't exist and describing it differently will change it, I invite you to maybe go to the top of a 2 or 3 story building, tall enough to get injured but not killed, and test that with gravity. I don't do that. It won't work. You can describe gravity any way you want, and it will still do what it does, and you will still get hurt. Right? Reality is real, and biology is real, and even though gender dysphoria is also real and can need treated and has various ways that we can respond to it, and there may be debate over what is the best way, and I'm not going to get into that debate right now because it's not important to the discussion at hand. Pretending it makes biology not real is bullshit. And that when somebody has a straight sexuality, they're biologically inclined to want to look at biological women, and it's just the way it is, and you have to deal with it. You can't make people change that. It's not something that authority can change in an individual. And they'll be honest. All you can do is saddle transgender people with lovers and fans who are fake. They don't care about them. They just care about not getting in trouble with authority. Or you can make them the clowns that tear down your whole society. And that's not fair to society, it's not fair to them, and it's not fair to the people that you're targeting. So don't be the people that cooperate with this. I know that we have fans who are old school trans and probably don't like hearing Troonies and stuff like that, unless you're able to differentiate between yourself and the new neo trans, that people that aren't
trenders
that aren't trans, honestly.
The trans trenders, yeah.
Yeah, the trenders that are, I will say, faking it. It's like actual Munchausen syndrome. To get attention, to get power, to get whatever. Like, and they're not just stealing your thunder. They're not just stealing your issue. They're stepping all over you. And they're taking down some favorite things in society on the way. And Sports Illustrated, not a very good idea to go down that path when your business is one that has already been dying for 20 years. Print media has had a lot of losses because of digital media, and it has really, like, the same thing is happening with ownership of movies on DVD ownership of photographs, print images, and so on. Like, it's a lot harder to sell those things because people are keeping them on their computers. They're keeping them on their pocket computers, their phones. There's no point in having big physical items when you can have it digitally. And if anything ever happens to take that all out, it's going to be a huge loss, because that you can't salvage that. It'd be like having the Library of Alexandria burn again. But notwithstanding, it's easier to destroy yourself if you're already on the way out. And you can't prop yourself up by doing stupid shit. So, print publishers really ought to be more careful than this. Just from the perspective of a former print publisher.
Yeah.
Print publishers really ought to be more careful than this. I watched the newspaper I worked for when 20 years ago drop in circulation because people were buying bigger newspapers, and then people weren't buying newspapers. Like, they were getting it online, and now that newspaper's circulation is more online than off. Like, I can get it where I live now because it's more online than off, and I can find out what's going on in the town where I grew up. But at the same time, it's a lot harder to sell ads for that, and it's not as profitable. So this is sad,
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it might be the end of Sports Illustrated, which I didn't really read it, but it was always like a part of my life, kind of like Playboy. Somebody in the chat mentioned Playboy went the same route. I mean, they basically they Hugh Hefner died, they put a woman in charge, and then it just went downhill. She basically said, I mean, Hugh Hefner was a feminist. Like, let's not get it twisted. He was kind of one of these Gloria Steinem, types from the 60s, but the third or fourth wave that took over.
Flood type, though. He was more.
No. He was more like he
loved women, and he thought that.
Yeah, he would say whatever it took, but also it was probably what that kind of sex positive sexual revolution style feminism was in the 60s. That's what he was a part of. But point is that the new management took over. It was a woman, different perspectives. And I don't know if that's what happened with Sports Illustrated, but I wouldn't be surprised. It was certainly adopting, what I would call to be like feminine sensibilities in terms of like, what kind of content they were going to put in there. I think they didn't we do a story on them stopping the swimsuit issue or changing it? They were putting like big women in there, body positive women in there, stuff like that.
A couple of social justice-y things.
Yeah, they have.
And it's
like ESPN.
It's been sad for me for other reasons. I mean, I'm not going to say I haven't enjoyed the swimsuit issue, but my family's style of sports photography was heavily influenced by Neil Leifer, and Neil Leifer was I guess a big part of actually that inspiration. We looked at, this is, you want people to buy the newspaper that has their kids' sports pictures in, like that, the local football team, whether they won or lost. You want the parents in the community to want to see their kids in the newspaper. And so, you make it look like they were playing for the Bengals as far as the types of pictures you're trying to get. You get the best moments and everything. And it you write about it accurately, but the photography should be exciting to look at, and should capture, how important the event is to the community. And it's sad, that was great sports photography, and it was great imagery, great presentation, a great way to market. Look what we can show you. This is what you love about the sport. These moments are what you love about the sport. And that's gonna die. And that's if you've been an athlete or if you've been a photographer, if you've been a sports fan, that's sad.
Yeah,
it's like watching, your friend go through Alzheimer's or something.
Yeah. Well, let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. I'm going to read your super chats, and then we're going to move on to the next bit. So we got from Richard Bier, gives us $5 and super chow, and says, one would figure that with all of the technology available in post-production that there would be almost no need to have even blank rounds on a movie set, as the firing effect could be added in later, referring to the previous story. Yeah, but I think they wanted to be authentic, and I understand that they had live ammunition and blanks on set, and that when they're not shooting, for the show, for the movie or whatever, they would be like practicing with the gun. So I think there was, a mix-up that happened, I would say. So kind of a shame, but not that Alec Baldwin didn't have his share of anger issues, but I don't think he would go that far. Okay, and then we got
there's ways to handle that. If you work in a chemical lab where some of the chemicals have to be kept at a refrigerated temperature, and you have a refrigerator for that, and you have a work day that's long enough that it includes lunch breaks and people bring their own lunch, you have a refrigerator for food, and it is not nearby the refrigerator for the chemicals, right?
Yeah.
That's because unless there's something wrong with your lab. But that's because they don't want you to ingest the chemicals, and they don't want you to mix the food in with the chemicals. And even in food safety, for instance, there is an order of operations sort of for where you put, you don't put your raw chicken above things that it can drip down onto and infect, that are not with food poisoning, that are not meat and stuff like that. That you have a height at which you store things, and so on, and it's fail safes in order to prevent things from going wrong that can go wrong, that have gone wrong in the past, that go wrong a lot if you screw it up. And they can do the same thing with movie sets where, we don't have to have live ammunition, doesn't ever have to be on the set, and it shouldn't. It's just something that you say, all right, if you're going to do this, go to a shooting range after hours and use a different gun with your live ammo, and have just this prop gun and prop ammo, and that's it.
Yeah.
That's all.
I would, no, I mean, yeah, absolutely.
It's not that complicated.
It shouldn't be. Okay, well, anyway, so thank you for that, Richard. And then we got another one from Richard Bier for $5, and he says, there is a mirror in the electronics department at every Walmart, and if said mirror is destroyed, Walmart will lose its power over the people. Thank you for that. And I think that's it for the super chows. Allison did put a comment where she was giving thanks to Meredith G for 100 smackaroos for the fundraiser. Thank you, Meredith. I will play you a sound for that. So thank you.
Jolly cooperation.
That was jolly cooperation. All right, so thank you for that, and let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. And now we move on to the next story. So let me see here. We're going to be talking about the Army. The United States military is having a hard time recruiting people to join the armed forces. Under the $886 billion annual defense bill passed by Congress this week, total active duty troop numbers will fall to 1,284,500 next year. This number is the lowest since the U.S. entered World War II. Ashish Vazirani, the Pentagon's Undersecretary for Personnel and Readiness, said that, quote, that number understates the challenge before us as the services lowered end strength goals in recent years. In part because of the difficult recruiting environment, end quote. Military recruiters say Generation Z, those born between 1997 and 2012, generally have a low trust in institutions based and have decreasingly followed traditional life and career paths. Vazirani also said that while the picture of the current recruiting environment is acutely difficult, the Defense Department and the military services are working together to resolve issues, improve processes, and expand awareness of the many opportunities military service offers. We must reach today's youth where they are with a message that resonates with them and motivates them to act, end quote. The Pentagon has been at the center of controversy in recent years for their woke culture that the U.S. military has been promoting, such as DEI.
Yeah, again, this is one of those situations where the temptation is to go, "Mwahaha, you get what you effing deserve." But again, it's not a comedy, it's a tragedy. This isn't going to hurt the prospects of the anti-male, anti-white shitehawks in the government who did this. It's only going to leave the general populace undefended when the globalist commie war machine rolls into your neighborhood. Do you think the Biden regime is at all worried about China invading America? They already are invading it via the southern border in the form of whatever mercenaries being paid peanuts to crash on in and start breaking stuff. Do you think Joe Biden is concerned that he'll be made into a powerless puppet dictator of the CCP? He already is. The takeover is already long since underway, and they'll do it unopposed, at least in terms of the official military. The armed forces are necessarily composed of fighting age men, and that doesn't just mean 18 to 35. They're generally considered at peak fitness for combat only for like a couple of years. So all it takes to strip a country of its defenses is for one generation of men to nope out of it. And would you look at that? It's already happening. Yeah, to be honest, I don't blame them. Your government clearly hates you. They're barely even denying it. They keep saying the worst thing affecting our country is white supremacy. So of course the white men are going to go, oh, okay, I'd best not join the army, lest I contribute to the rising terror of white supremacy. Have fun fighting your wars with gay black troonies. Fill your boots, mate. Obviously, that won't stop the government from drafting anyone they want to draft. Mark Angelucci, bless his soul, got 2 steps into questioning whether that's a good idea, and they killed him on his doorstep. Allegedly, of course. I'm sure it was just one random nutter acting entirely out of his own accord, whatever. But yeah, they're obviously not going to backtrack on anything and go, sorry, we were wrong. We love white men after all. Please sign up of your own accord. Yeah, obviously not. It's in their interests to treat you like maggots whose lives are worthless and meaningless. So of course they're going to continue to do so and just sign you up for whatever reason they feel like sending you to your deaths. And when all the Zoomers get marched into the sights of Chinese tanks, the government's going to go, whoops, that didn't work. We'll have to steal another $1 trillion of taxpayers' money and launder it to some other proxy war 5,000 miles away, while your own country gets razed to the ground by armies of foreign mercenaries whom the Supreme Court just agreed should be facilitated in their invasion. At that point, the only thing left to defend America will be the proverbial American hiding behind every blade of grass with a gun. I wonder if the Biden regime has any plans to do away with all that. Gee, you don't need an AR-15. There's no reason anyone could possibly need a high-capacity magazine. You can't do shit to us, pleb. We have fighter aircrafts and nukes and millions upon millions of fighting-age men flooding in from countries we've trained to hate you. So yeah, I can't say I would recommend signing up to the military, but please, 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 for the love of God, don't let them take your guns. Because the moment that happens, all your worries about some kind of new civil war will be over. You'll be straight up conquered by force from and by other countries. And it's been the plan all along. You lose everything in a boating accident, folks. You know what to do.
I mean, I don't disagree with any of that stuff, but I do think that it's important that the military knows that these men, Zoomers, they're not willing to throw their lives away for a political class that hates them. I mean, 80% of the military has been white men. So like, I mean, I'm not saying this is good news, but you get what you get. And now, I mean, maybe people will get their shit together. Maybe people will see why this is a problem. And yeah, I'm not happy about the border either. That's going to be another. All I will say is that it's coming down to the wire, and I don't know what's going to happen this year, but it's going to get crazier. Is all I can say.
I will throw a little bit of water on this. The reporting on this that sounds very hysterical about it and everything isn't complete. So you know how like fact checkers will label a story true or false, and then every so often you'll see it labeled mixed. This is mixed. You look at deaths in World War I, you look at deaths in World War II, and then you compare that, and even deaths in Vietnam, which were high, but not as high as World War I and World War II in terms of raw numbers. And then you look at Desert Storm, Desert Shield, all of the military actions that have taken place in the last like 30 years. And you will find a significant difference in the number of deaths. Very significant. The reason that we needed such a big military historically was because they were throwing away the lives of many, many more of our own men. Men were being more used as cannon fodder in war then than they are now. There are a lot of casualties, a lot of injuries, a lot of terrible things happen, and there's a lot of PTSD. So people are coming back maimed, but they're not needing to replace dead men as frequently in war. And so it's not that there isn't a problem in recruiting. It's not there isn't a crisis in recruiting, but the description of the crisis as being artificially inflated. It's a scaremongering tactic, and the really bad thing is it's getting people to accept ideas that are not smart ideas. You know, like any port in a storm type of ideas, anyone you can get type ideas, lowering standards to let women take higher paying jobs in the military that usually are done by men type of ideas. Or a few years ago, when Obama was still president, the right side of the Uniparty started talking about using military enrollment as a pathway to amnesty for illegal aliens. And I cannot begin to tell you how bad of an idea that is. Right? People who did not grow up in this country, people who are not dedicated to this country, people who do not understand what it's like to live their lives in a free country, and who are accustomed to the conditions that they were fleeing, and who will listen to an authority that says impose these conditions on the people around you, should not be the majority of the military. But they didn't think of that, or it was the goal. Like, there's no in between there, right? And that'll get brought up again. We will start hearing about that again. Well, we can't get American citizens to enroll in the military, and nobody wants a draft. So let's do this. And people will be like, yeah, let them be in the military. Let them fight for the country. They're not going to fight for the country. They're going to fight for the government. Like, that's what's bad. This, just listening to what the media tells you about this and going along with, oh, you know, this is the situation, we got to figure out what to do about it. Well, if you're worried, what to do about it is to get people in government who will do the unthinkable for government employees, government workers, politicians, civil servants, and that is to break it down, tear it down, take it to the bare bones, and strengthen the military again, so that we don't We don't have to rely on, people who are more about social justice politics than national defense to make the decisions that need to be made in regard to how our national defense is going to be handled. And so that soldiers are not treated like political and social pawns, but as experts at national defense in their particular area of expertise, whose job is to make sure that the nation is defended against invasion. Like, that's what needs to happen. And it needs to be a huge focus. And it needs to not matter whether you are on the left side or the right side of the political fence, whether you are on the authoritarian or libertarian side of the political fence, whether you are on the self-interest or altruism side of the political fence. Right? That actually has to happen. It needs to be done. Or we will see a turnover in the United States that nobody ever expected in terms of our politics, our leadership, and our national authority. What is in charge? Right? Because we'll get socialist authoritarians running the country, and we'll get a military that will support them out of fear, just like in the countries that they fled. Because there will be no place else for them to go. And they didn't fight it in their country, they ran away from it. So if there's no place else for them to go, they'll cooperate.
Yeah. Well, let's hope it doesn't get to that, but we'll see. Let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. We're going to move on to the next story. So let's bring that one up and get into. So, former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy. You guys probably know Vivek Ramaswamy, right? He's been all over social media. What?
What
about him? Vivek? Am I saying it? Vivek, yeah, sorry.
View where this is clarified. He doesn't care. He doesn't even care if you do 7-Eleven jokes about him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So Vivek Ramaswamy, former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy, he recently stepped down, like earlier this week. Appeared on Nerdrotic's Friday Night Tights, which is a very popular podcast where they have a show. It's a live show every Friday night, and it's hosted by all these guys that are kind of like involved in the sort of pop culture part of YouTube and the internet in general. And there's a lot of people lots of guests that come on there. They've had Razor Fist on in the past, for example. They had Sargon on, or Carl, in the past. So it's a really big thing on Fridays. I don't watch it because I'm usually doing this, but I know that it's popular. So on this past week's show, Vivek Ramaswamy called in and discussed with the various panelists, the folks on Friday Night Tights, the demasculinization in popular culture, particularly in the MCU, which is like what we call the Marvel Cinematic Universe's new female-dominated era, which, isn't making money because it's not Barbie. Ramaswamy criticized the cultural messages that young boys receive and expressed concern about the current state of masculinity that is being portrayed in our media. He also touched on the intersection of politics and culture, likening media consumption to trying on clothes and suggesting that politics is more consequential. Ramaswamy hinted at a potential future appearance, so he said he would come back on their show, and he teased the possibility of Elon Musk as a future guest. So the reason why this is a little thing, not a big story, but the reason why I want to bring this up is that it is entirely related to, and I would say it is related to Gamergate. So we were just talking before the show that Gamergate is about 10 years old this year, okay? And in case you didn't know that, it's the 10th anniversary of Gamergate, and I think that it was in August, so like it officially 10 years in August. And the whole thing was, there was this big discussion in the Gamergate world about whether or not this was an issue of games journalist, ethics in games journalism, or if it was something bigger. And I think most of us on this panel have always argued, because we were already talking about the problems with feminist thought in our zeitgeist. It's not even necessarily like feminists themselves. It's like their ideas are, sort of mainstreamed into everything, and they're affecting everything. And so like Anita Sarkeesian, for example, who was like, a primary sort of like, I don't know, target of the time, was more literally who, yeah. But she wasn't like the thing. It's not, she wasn't like, fucking like the what's his name from the James Bond movies, that you just, if you kill him, like that's the end, right? She wasn't that. She was a product of this way of thinking, this ideology. And I and many of us have always maintained that you, like, if all the journalist websites went down, the problem would persist, and it would actually spread not just from journalism into development, into the culture itself. And that has happened. We've been watching it like over these past 10 years get worse and worse and worse. And even guys like these Nerdrotic guys they're pretty new to this stuff, would they hear Gamergate sometimes and they're like, oh, I think I heard about that. Or they'll say, oh, not that old, thing. Oh, it's like they don't want to be associated with it, but you can't avoid it. It is the reality. You are downstream from that. And that was a good thing. And it probably should, it should have maintained the momentum that it had for the few years that it was there, because here we are. And still there's this joke that it was Gamergate that created Donald Trump as president. And I think that's true.
The tiny domino that eventually...
Yeah, it's like the tiny domino that leads to the 2016 election. And I think that's true, because what happened is that you have these people that were, a lot of nerdy people, mostly men, but there were women and stuff too. And they were doing their little things, and then they get attacked from the outside, and people are criticizing, what they're doing and how they're having fun, and they're trying to take that away from them, and they're trying to control them and micromanage them. And so these people turn their autism powers on, the system, like the system that they were basically happy not to know anything about. And suddenly you have like this massive cultural shift. I mean, I think back now on the people that I used to know, like Carl. Well, I still know Carl, but I haven't talked to him in a while. Like Sargon, and how much he has changed in these past 10 years, and how much Mike has changed, and how much like this channel has changed. And some people that I've spoken to, I mean, some of them have moved in directions that I didn't expect, and others, they just kind of like followed this through, and it's only gotten more and more influential. It's gotten more and more reach. And so when I heard that Vivek, who was basically going on a bunch of like, he's a young guy, so he was like tuned in, more or less, in terms of how do I get my message out. And I think it was very smart of him to go on, like Joe Rogan. I think he was on Joe Rogan, and like some other sort of podcasts that were, like Steven Crowder's show and stuff like that. Very, very smart move, but also, pretty tuned in. Like I think, and I think it's very interesting, because potentially, and I don't know if this is going to happen, but there's a lot of talk that, I saw this, there's a show I watch sometimes called Valuetainment, the channel, hosted by a guy named Patrick Bet David. And, he's like, they're very like big money guys. They talk about investing and finance and stuff, but they've been podcasting and talking a lot about culture and politics and things like this. And they have all these interesting guests on. And I saw a clip where their guest was Glenn Beck, and they asked Glenn Beck, because he talks to Trump all the time, and Trump is obviously running in, for the election 2024, and he's most likely going to be the nominee because no one else is really stacking up. Vivek was my second choice, maybe him or DeSantis. I was like, kind of leaning towards them, but when they both dropped out and it was just like Trump or Nikki Haley. Basically, Nikki Haley is like, Hillary Clinton with an R next to her name. And she's got more Democrat donors than Republican ones. So where she stands on that. And she's playing the woman card and the race card. So But I don't think she's gonna.
Playing the woman card disqualifies her in my book, regardless.
Oh, absolutely, automatically. Well, even when I saw she was running, she was playing the woman card from the beginning. So I was like, well, that's no good.
She could have any platform. It would not matter to me. The minute she plays the woman card, she's disqualified.
Yeah, she was totally
be held accountable if she uses that card.
Yeah.
That's it.
And by the way, speaking of journalism, I got to do the plug because my friend John Delarose, this is his website, Fandom Pulse. I recommend you guys, bookmark that and check it out. He used to be one of the main guys in Bounding into Comics, but Bounding into Comics is selling out, so he's doing this now, and it's probably a better website in my opinion because it's a little bit broader of a net, so just putting that out there. fandompulse.com, go subscribe, follow it, whatever, bookmark it, whatever people do with these places. So, but anyway, so so they're talking to Glenn Beck on this podcast, and Patrick Bet-David is asking him, do you know who Trump is looking at for his VP? Everybody's asking about the VP. Who's going to be the VP, right? Or at least his pick for VP. And Glenn Beck said that Trump asked him, that he called him up and said, who do you think would be, the good choice? Who do you like? Who do you like? And Glenn Beck said that, I know that you just finished trouncing him in the, in this recent debate or whatever, or this caucus, but I like Vivek. And Trump said that
I do too.
Vivek is the most, of everyone he spoke to, Vivek is the most requested. You should go with that guy. You should go with that guy. Now, I'm not going to get into a political discussion here, but what I will say is that if this is true, this puts Vivek, this puts Gamergate 1 degree of separation away from the president, from the potential president of the United States. This is how much influence we have had. It took 10 years, but you can see the ripple. That's the thing. I don't know where this is going to go. I'm not saying any guarantees of anything, but the fact that this conversation has gotten that far out and that Vivek Ramaswamy is talking about the importance of masculinity culturally, which is absolutely crucial. We can't even begin to talk about legal or political problems if people don't see men as human. And the only way you're going to do that is if you have to affect the culture. It's the only way, in my opinion, right? You can't just tell people men are human. You have to show them, and I think that is extremely interesting, and I'm excited to see where it goes. So that's why I picked this story. I think it's very interesting, and I want to know what you guys think. So
how is Vivek so good? That's what I keep asking myself.
How is he so good?
Yeah, he keeps saying all the right things, and he's exceptionally good at saying them. He even fucks with the climate change hysteria.
Yes.
No politician does that. Not even Trump will go anywhere near the climate change hysteria. And Vivek is going all right up close to all the things that we want to talk about. And maybe it takes a doomer like me to kind of go, this is surely too good to be true. How could anyone be this good at saying all the things we want them to say?
Well, that's my one. Sometimes I do wonder if he isn't too slick.
Yeah, plus
too clean, and that's my one thing. But I do wonder if that's not my own cynicism.
Also, he dropped out of the race to be the GOP nominee, and he did it in order to get right behind Trump. But
yeah.
If you ask me, there really ought to be someone else in the race in the event that they take Trump out, because the CIA has admitted that they killed Kennedy. And it's not just the CIA, it's the FBI, it's all of these deep state entities that have proven themselves capable of anything. And
yeah.
I really want someone else other than Nikki Haley to be in there in the event that they take Trump out. Because what you said about Nikki Haley playing the woman card, even if Nikki Haley was a man who didn't have the option of playing the woman card, she would still be the worst possible thing.
Her platform is bad.
Yeah, everything she says is everything Hillary Clinton would say. And
what I would find really interesting if Trump picks for the VP, just really quick, if it wasn't Vivek, I think Vivek's great, but if he picked Tulsi Gabbard, That would be pretty interesting because she's a Democrat. And I think it would be like a good.
Has she played the woman card?
No, actually, Tulsi Gabbard. No. I haven't. You know what? I don't know. I've never seen her do it. But I will say this: she was a Democrat. I think she was running as independent, or she moved into the independent. So, there is also.
That's my one standard.
Don't play the woman card
to pass before I even consider their politics. Like,
yeah,
they can be the best looking set of political beliefs out there, but
Tulsi
if
Gabbard
they
is good
use
looking.
the woman card, it doesn't matter, because they like it's you guys understand how bad it is, but I don't know, maybe there are people that listen that don't, but the fail-safe in a high responsibility position, the fail-safe against fuck-ups is that you can be criticized, is that you can be not only criticized, but you can be criticized on a higher level because your responsibility is bigger. It's on a higher level. So you can be criticized in ways and amounts and with vehemence that wouldn't apply to some dipshit burger flipper. You know, like I when I did that job, you know, it was not a big deal, right? You have certain areas of being criticized, but the buck doesn't stop with you on everything. It stops with whoever's higher up. Well, when you're running for a position where you're going to be making legislation, or you're going to be signing legislation, or when you're trying to become a judge in a high position in the judicial system, anywhere in a federal government, like that is the highest level in government of you should be able to be criticized. You should not have a card to play that is, you can't say this because I'm a woman. You can't do this because I'm a woman. Well, that would be okay, except I'm a woman, so that's bad. You can't have that and be accountable, and your fail-safe against fuck-ups that become permanent, or that you don't get stopped from doing, that you don't get persuaded not to do, is gone. It doesn't exist. If you can use that card, you throw that card down over it, and all of a sudden the stop button is gone. All of a sudden the brakes are gone. And all of a sudden you have the capability, the full capability of just being a loose cannon, a runaway train that is going to cause extreme damage because you took, you know, an idea from a set of ideas that, whether it's good or bad, you may seem the best idea in the world to you, and you took it beyond the level where it would be remotely okay to, this should have been criticized, but people couldn't because you were a woman. And so I don't care what their politics are. I like Tulsi Gabbard. I think she's great. But I would have to see, before I consider anything else about her in regard to political candidacy, I would have to see her take her woman card out in public and cut it up and throw it on the ground and say, this doesn't exist for me.
Yeah, no, I get that. I don't think that it would be good because she's a woman. I think it'd be like RFK. I think it would be good because you would have like people that would appear to be on opposite sides of the aisle coming together for what's best for the country.
Yeah.
So in that symbolic way, I think yeah.
But there are people that would not vote for the partnership because there's a woman. If
I know, I get that.
She doesn't do that, and like, yeah, I would not be able to.
Well, we got Kamala Harris.
You know, I wouldn't be able to overlook that. If there's a woman on both sides, then I'm going to be in real trouble. You know, like that's Kamala Harris is worse. That would force me to vote for whoever's running against.
Yeah.
You know, that type. But I hope that Trump does not pick a woman, because right now I haven't seen a single woman in politics step forward and genuinely say, you know, this is my woman card, rip it up, throw it on the ground, and say, don't use this. Even like people attribute that to Hillary Clinton, but that's not what she did.
Oh no, she would play the woman card like, are you kidding me?
Right.
Like,
she came out once and said her gender wasn't a qualifier.
Yeah, that's bullshit though.
She still uses the term misogyny every chance she gets. She accused Trump of being creepy. She played her woman card up one side and down the other. And, and while I'm talking about the stupid woman card, I have a request for listeners. And this is featured in my profile. I have a question that I have asked everybody, and it says, men, what's your worst experience of the woman card being used against you, and what was the outcome? Well, if you're on Twitter, go to my profile on X. Go to my profile. And if you have an experience to talk about, please answer that question, because I want to see how badly I got pissed off about something that happened that I know about at work not too long ago, and it's been stuck in my craw. And so I'm asking this question because I want to see, like, it's a petty one, but I've seen a lot worse, and I want to see what other people have to say about it, specifically men. So it's my pinned tweet. Go to my profile and let me know what your worst experience of the woman card being used against you is. And there's a description of what the woman card is in that text.
All right. Yeah, well, let us know what you guys think about this one in the comments. I got a couple super chows, so I'll go ahead and read those, and then we'll move on to the last story, because I think we have enough time for it, and I think you guys might like this one too. So this is from Richard B. Air, gives us $5 and says, remember that part of the Goon Squad that was curb stomping on the Canadian truckers went into that fracas with no identifying insignia whatsoever, and there was speculation about whether or not they were actually Canadian at all. I think I remember something like that. And then he gives us another $5 and says, when there were fewer journalistic outlets, it was almost a requirement to have the best of quality in the field, as since there was a limited number of publications, the hack journalists faced a rather difficult uphill battle to get hired in the first place. Yeah, well, there are no standards. And also, like, well, I think it starts with how awful education is, which we're going to get into in the next story. Because I think, like, these people, they get the college degrees, and they get educated, basically. And so we're going to move on to the next story, and you'll see. And it's really easy to get a college degree. You just have to go $100,000 in debt, and then you can just stick around long enough. You get a PhD. Doesn't matter if you use it. Doesn't matter if you're at all able to take advantage of it. If you have any level of IQ whatsoever. But okay, so let's move on to the final story. Do you guys remember? I think it was earlier this year, or maybe early this year. I think there was a woman a viral video was going around of a woman with a gigantic swelling on the side of her head who claimed that she was hit by a brick. Hit in the face with a brick that was used on her by an Uber driver, and she was crying with a big swelling on her face, and made like $40,000 on a GoFundMe. You guys remember that?
I don't remember the original. I only heard about it after justice came to fruition, when it turned out she was lying. But I'm fascinated to hear how she caused the massive swelling. If it was,
go ahead.
Stealth with a brick? What the fuck happened? Go on.
No. So let me find the video, because I think that's worth looking at. Of the viral video of her. Got it right here. I'm going to share this, and let me share this tab with you guys instead. And I'm going to play this video, so take a listen.
Center of a viral video who claimed a man threw a brick at her head because she would not give him her phone number is now wanted by Houston police. This story got national attention after that woman live streamed what she claimed was the aftermath on Instagram and started a GoFundMe. Only KPRC2's Bryce Newberry is talking with the prosecutor.
Okay, so I'm going to pause it there. So what she did was, I didn't know you could do this, but she injected her face with a saline solution to artificially swell it up. Okay? And then she did I gotta share my video again because I accidentally closed that window. Oh no, you guys should you be able to see this? Hold on a
No,
second.
we don't see.
No, it's all right. I got it. So she injected her face with saline solution. She worked in a clinic or a hospital or something. And so she was able to put herself into a hospital gown, inject her face, and record a video. It's very elaborate. Okay. And she set up a GoFundMe and made like $45,000. And it was exposed, but it took a little while for the exposure to come out. Well, anyway, turns out, hours after a woman who went viral on social media was supposed to turn herself into Houston police on Thursday, because she was like essentially on the hook for some crimes. The man that she accused of hitting her with a brick has basically come forward, and he spoke in an exclusive interview. I have a clip from the interview right here. So I'm going to show this. I'm going to share this tab, and here's a video clip. I'm going to play it in a second. Rhoda Osmond, that's the woman, 33, has been charged with felony theft by deception. According to charging documents, Osmond raised at least $40,000 through a fraudulent GoFundMe page she started in September that claimed that she was the victim of a similar attack more than 3 years ago. So she's actually done this before too. This is her second time doing this. The first time, I think she made like $7,000 or something. And then this last time, because it went really viral, she made about $45,000. And here's the man that she accused in the video. And this gets a little bit more interesting in my opinion. So I'll play this clip.
I assume she accused a white guy. That guy.
Well, no, she did not. Because in the video, she's crying about black men doing this. Now, of course, I think that it's all about like where the opportunity is at. Because if there are black men around and you can accuse them, black men become white men when the time is right. So being a black man does not protect you. Sorry.
This is your countries.
You're still a man. Yeah, you're still a man. So anyway, here's the man being interviewed. Play this clip. It's only like a minute.
What has it been like for you having to stay silent for the last so many months?
I had family members, friends, associates, people coming to me, blaming me, talking about me. It's the hardest thing to do. Is to not say anything when the whole world is saying something about you.
And you thought for a long time, you were worried that you might have gone to jail.
I'm black. I'm accused of hitting a woman with a brick. I'm surprised I didn't get arrested in 30 seconds from this going out.
What has it been like for you?
So anyway, that's just a little clip. Yeah, I know. He thinks that because he's black, it was
victim fight. Yeah, as it always.
Yeah. Let me tell you about the woman who did this really quick, and then I'll get your thoughts. Okay, so Rhoda Osmond, the woman who scammed this is interesting. She's a PhD student, Master of Science, Columbia University. She has a bachelor's in English, Southern New Hampshire University. Her interests: black feminist theory, ethnography, urban social movements, black diasporic studies, decolonial studies, cultural studies, and race and gender studies. So literally a woke feminist.
Gobbledygook to me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of woman that would basically concoct some victimhood story to make a bunch of money, to grift. I mean, like, the only difference between her and an academic professional feminist is that, this woman, like, we know this woman is lying. And I in a way, I guess I got to give her credit because she didn't like write a book and go on Bill Maher and shit. So but anyway, yeah. So just so you know who did this, what happened, and what the cost was. Go ahead, Hannah.
Yeah, she got caught before she did all that, so it didn't happen. But there's no doubt that she would have if she'd gotten the opportunity. This is similar to Munchausen's in that these people make up these stories for attention, and they fake victimhood for attention, and then they convince themselves that they really are victims, or that they are acting on behalf of victims, and that this is a particularly heroic thing to do. But she is not mighty, and she is not letting it all hang out. She's not a brick house. She's not. No, that's not a brick house. That's not what a brick house is. But it did. I got the song stuck in my head as soon as this stupid story came up because of the brick aspect, and she's not anything good in this situation. As far as the guy saying, responding, I'm black. If you tell people, just like when you tell women as a feminist, like when you tell women that if they go to the police with a rape allegation, the police will not believe them and they will abuse them for coming in. You get fewer women reporting because some women will believe you and they will be afraid to go. If you tell an entire population demographic that they're more likely to get arrested because of the color of their skin based on an allegation, well, that they're going to believe that as well. And the fact is, it's not because he's black. It's because he's a man. He's a man,
Yep.
And he's accused of hurting a woman. So, yeah, there was a chance that he would have gone to jail. There was even a chance that he would have gone to jail if she went in with the prosecutor with a story that was obviously false, with details in it that were obviously impossible. I've seen that happen. And there's even a chance that if he got that overturned on appeal, or if he got a deal, because the state was embarrassed that they railroaded him, that they would hound him for the rest of his life until they drove him crazy, or that they would wreck his career by refusing to remove it from his record. Because I've seen those two things happen as well. So, this guy was put in a shitload of danger. This kind of situation, they're only going after her for fraud.
Yeah.
Right? Fraud does not carry necessarily a sentence as heavy as what he would have been, because throwing a brick at somebody's head you could be charged for attempted murder. You hit somebody in the head with a brick, you can kill them.
Also, she's on the lam. So, the cops are looking for her. So she's not in custody or anything like that.
She's not going to be clever enough to hide for very long. They'll find
Probably
her.
not.
But she won't get 5 years in jail.
No.
He could have gotten charged with a high enough crime to get double digits, to get life even. If it was, if she screwed up and later died from the injury, which you can do when you inject things into your head. That's a really dumb idea to begin with. This could have been incredibly serious for him. It could have been life-altering for him.
Oh, absolutely.
In very awful ways. And she will not receive anywhere near the punishment that she should for it after they find her. This is why lying about a crime should be equal to committing that crime. Lying about being assaulted, lying about being attacked with a potentially deadly act of violence should be equal to committing a potentially deadly act of violence.
Arguably, it should be worse because you're misusing state apparatus in order to commit your crime, which is wasting police time, as well as the effects of the crime itself.
Well, and the police forces are a deadly weapon. You don't know what's going to happen during the arrest. You don't know if the guy is going to panic and do something stupid. You don't know if the police are going to feel threatened and shoot. You don't know that when he goes to jail, some other inmate is going to think he can be a hero by beating the hell out of the wife hitter or
even killing
woman
him.
hitter or predator that tried to get a girl's phone number. Oh my God. And you know, you don't know any of that. You don't know that he's not going to be denied medical care that he should get and die that way in jail. So when you point the state at someone, it is far worse than pointing a gun. Like that's this is, I can't even begin to emphasize, it is vital that we as a community, as a society, as a country, whatever, that we start addressing false allegations made by filing false criminal charges or by defrauding the public, by starting something that's going to cause false criminal charges to be filed against somebody. That absolutely needs to be handled with the utmost seriousness. It is as serious as trying to commit murder.
Hey, I got an update. Brick lady turns herself into police. Rhoda Osmond, the Houston woman who went viral as a brick lady, turned herself in today, this morning, being charged with theft by deception.
That'll save.
Also, I'm pretty sure she got banned off of using GoFundMe, but what?
I hope so.
Yeah, I know.
Hope they don't want people
be
defrauding
obvious,
their consumers. Jeez.
Yeah. So there you go.
Doesn't just mean she's turning herself into a policeman. I mean, they'll let illegal immigrants fucking become policemen. Why wouldn't they let any become a policeman?
Yeah.
Why not? Why not? So anyway, any other thoughts on this? All right. Well, I got some super chats.
The one that caused the news story.
Yeah. Well, I got one more super chat from Richard Bier. He gives us $5. Thank you, Richard. And he says, would she have felt any remorse if her claims resulted in that man getting severely beaten or ended? Are there classes that women attend to learn how to make various allegations for their own gain? Well,
it's called women's studies, and it's been in the universities for like 30, 40 years now.
Yeah, I think there's a list here.
Help to fund that, by the way.
Black feminist theory, ethnography, urban social movements, black diasporic studies. I mean, the man she accused apparently took some classes because he thought his blackness was the problem, even though the woman accusing him was black.
All he had to do is listen to the mainstream media to believe that. You know, to not realize.
Oh, of course, that's
being a man and being.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. Like the absolutely, because like men, like the experiences of men are erased, and one of the ways you erase a man's experience is you basically say, oh no, it's not because you're a man, it's because you're black. And then the men go like, oh, I guess it is because I'm black. And then all of a sudden, all of the male problems become invisible. They can't even talk about them because they presume it's all racial. And if it isn't, like if you couldn't possibly like even like create a series of logical steps to go from an experience as negative and your race, then it must be just your fault. It has nothing to do with being a man, right? So if you are a black man and you're denied custody of your kids, then you can't see that you're a man. All you can see is that you're black, so you can't make that racist. All you can say is, well, it must be me. And so you just internalize it.
Racial communism was always a distraction from gender communism, and I reluctantly call it gender communism because gender is a pointless, stupid word. It's sex communism, but it's hard to call it that because sex is an ambiguous word.
Yeah, it also means something else. Yeah,
but the biological sex communism has been going on for 100 years and counting. The racial communism has barely taken hold in the last couple of decades.
Yes.
Stop getting distracted by that. It all started with the feminists. I know we would say that because we're MRAs, but fuck's sake, it's true. Ugh.
That's true. It is true. All right. Well, thank you, Richard, for that. And I guess that's all the stories. So we're going to head into the patron show now. And we're going to look at this story from Arwa Madawi. AI girlfriends are here, but there's a dark side to virtual companions. If you want to find out what it is she's going to say, even though we can all probably predict it, I'm definitely working on like a bingo card plugin like thing that lets me like draw right on the screen. And there are tools for this. So maybe in the future we'll have like a bingo card and change the categories on it and see if we can get bingo on some of these articles. But anyway, if you want to join us, become a badger yourself by going to feedthebadger.com. $5 a month will get you into our Discord, and you'll be able to watch this additional content. And if you give it higher levels, you can even be a part of the conversation. So please consider doing that. Feedthebadger.com. Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Hannah, so much for coming on and spending time with me while I endure all of this dark abyssal crap. And thank you guys for watching. If you guys like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, hit the bell for notification, leave us a comment, let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today, and please, please, please share this video because sharing is caring. Thanks y'all for so much for coming on today's episode of HBR News, and we will talk to you all in the next video.
Word.
Are machines, dude. Okay, they are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have like a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.